But now we're getting to the real highlight of the day, one of the real highlights. And for the rest of the day, we'll be able to hear from whistleblowers and those who are actually taking action to do what's right. And I'm so excited to have these incredible international whistleblowers. This is our first whistleblower panel of the day. I'm so happy to have them here. And this panel is going to be moderated by the incredible fish rot whistleblower, Johannes Stefansson, and he'll be joined by Ari Denikas and Yasmin Motorjemi. So please start and share about your wonderful whistleblower experiences or not so wonderful whistleblower experiences. It's great to see you all here as a team, and I can't wait to hear your stories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siri, and welcome to the International Whistleblower Experience Panel. I'll be joined by here two very brave and amazing whistleblowers who have been fighting injustice for many years. And, Dr. Yasmin Motorjemi and Mr. Ari Denikas. But first, before I ask them to introduce themselves further, I would like to say a big thank you to you, Siri Nelson, and the team for organizing these amazing days and getting everybody together. You know, this is the NGOs and all the lawyers and advocates and academics who are putting so many other good people who are putting a lot of effort to assist whistleblowers. This is really very much appreciated, and thank you very much. Also, I saw it was good news that the Senate has passed the resolution to recognize the 30th of July as a National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. That is really great, and you know, it was what I saw in the news is that it's 244 years ago at that day, the first whistleblowers law was passed in US. So it really tells us how US is much more advanced than far most countries in this world. So we get to the panel discussion. I would like to introduce my two fellow whistleblowers. And maybe they will tell them a little bit about themselves. And Mr. Ari Denikas, maybe you will start.
Good afternoon, Johannes, and my fellow panelists. Greetings, WNN America, from a very hot summer here in Greece. It is both a privilege and a pleasure to participate in tonight's chapter of Chatting with International Whistleblowers. Each whistleblower has a year of initiation. Mine was the year 2004 in South Africa. My story can be a textbook manifest of how not to handle whistleblowers, both by the authorities, judiciary, as well as sloppy journalism. In 2000, I was invited to become a peace officer, a reservist, as we call it, due to my computer and electronic skills in South Africa, as well as my family tradition in fighting crime, thus helping my community. After nearly 3 years of training and limited hours logged as a volunteer, I witnessed an event that triggered my consciousness. It was a torture of an African suspect by the notorious Cato Manor police unit in KZN, South Africa. The members of the unit proudly and casually proceeded to strip down the African suspect, place him on a chair naked, and then use the apartheid torture choking method on the suspect to obtain a confession by placing a bag over his head and choking him. His alleged crime: he was found in possession of a stolen laptop. When I realized what was about to happen, I could have left and keep a blind eye, but I didn't hesitate. I used a state-of-the-art camera phone in my possession at the time and pretended that I was receiving a call from my mother in Greece. I even spoke in Greek, so the police members did not get any suspicious of me. I managed to obtain 3 short video clips of the torture in progress, and it was an intense moment. I was afraid and full of adrenaline. Had they realized that I was taking secret video of them, well, I won't be here telling you the story now. It is crucial to point out that the word whistleblower did not exist on my limited English vocabulary at the time. Neither I was aware of any public disclosure acts or whistleblower anonymous protection mechanisms in South Africa. I did what my common sense told me to do at the time. Thus, I made a textbook internal disclosure by reporting and exposing my findings to my commanding officer, Director Johan Boysen, the head of the organized crime unit in South Africa at the time. The same history repeats itself, and unknowingly to me then, during the apartheid times, the very same director that I made an internal reporting to a decade later had in fact been implicated in the same modus of operandi, and he, as well as other officers of the unit, were accused and found responsible for extrajudicial killings of an African suspect back in 1992. Had the authorities studied history and acted on such an investigation by removing those white racist officers from the police force back in 1994, I wonder how many innocent African lives would have been spared today. Regrettably, there is no accountability in South Africa for ex-politicians and security force commanding officers responsible for the coordination and promotion of torture and extrajudicial death of Africans during and post-apartheid. Between 2004 and 2008, I witnessed and documented further atrocities committed by the members of the elite force that regrettably had inherited interrogating methods from within a racist culture of the apartheid security forces. I further tried on my own way to reveal wrongdoing in SA while I was running my business and also trying to remain alive. The tipping point for me was a 2007 incident that scarred me for life. I don't know how much time we have, Johannes, so you can advise me on that. Do we have more time?
Yeah, I think we have come to the time, but I think you have told your incredible story quite well, and I'm much bravery to use the phone at that time to record what was these terrible actions, but how you have stayed there and you documented and you got information, This is just an incredible story and a huge courage you have. I really admire your courage.
To conclude, I have now dedicated my free time to advocate for human rights and assist international NGOs, such as Blueprint for Free Speech and previously Trespass International, doing projects such as anonymous protection mechanisms for whistleblowers, as well as the transposition of the directive of the Public Disclosure Act in Europe. And we are bringing a new chapter of Blueprint for Free Speech in Greece. My work up until now is pro bono. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a little bit read about your work, and this is really much appreciated. And you're inspiration. Thank you very much. And I will, Dr. Yasmin Motoyemi, welcome. And yes. I hope you are well.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, Johannes. Hello, everybody. I have the greetings from the Swiss whistleblowers. I'm actually in Florida, but my whistleblowing story takes place in Switzerland, a country that, from the perspective of whistleblowing, has perhaps one of the worst scenarios among the democratic nations, because it has no law for protection of whistleblowers, but worse than that, retaliation in form of moral harassment is allowed and is not sanctioned by law. And also persecution of whistleblowers happen. It can be in form of a strategic lawsuit, imprisonment, all kind of harassment, judicial harassment. Well, my story is a story of 22 years battle for food safety and human rights. against a multinational company. And it's also a story of impunity of a multinational company to the detriment of public health. In short, I was working in the World Health Organization as senior scientist, acting director for food safety, when Nestlé approached me and insisted for 2 years to recruit me. In the year 2000, I joined the company as assistant vice president, responsible for food safety at global level. Very shortly after taking up my post, I realized that there were a lot of shortcomings, deficiencies in procedures and infrastructure for managing food safety. And in some instances, there was also violations and negligences. So it was my job to deal with this, and I did this in the best of my capacity, and I got very excellent evaluations every year. But in the process, I had to confront a manager who was particularly negligent, willfully negligent. And in one specific case, I had to report this issue to the top management. It's actually very interesting to see that my story starts about the same time as Ari's story, and then we have also a common element. The fact is that in this specific case that I had to report to the top management, this manager was letting babies to choke. And we had complaints by hundreds. But unfortunately, 2 years later, he was promoted as director of quality at global level, and he became my boss. From then on, he started a process of retaliation in form of psychological harassment, but also to make obstruction into my work and discrediting me in front of everybody, and also continuing with his ruthless behavior, mismanagement, and giving wrong instructions. And as a result, I had to report the situation to the top management. And I blew the whistle for 4 years at all levels of the management, all the way up to the CEO. But the management refused to examine my situation, to audit our services, and to look at the problems. Instead, they aggravated my harassment. So they continued with their harassment until I asked to see the CEO, and at this occasion, I was dismissed. In the process, we had run into problems and incident after incident. Babies died, people got sick, and pets died, all kinds of food safety incidents. So soon I became a living evidence of their criminal negligence. After that, I was fired. During the years which followed, I kept reporting to authorities in France, in Switzerland, in the United States, and also to the European Commission. But no authority cared to examine my whistleblowing concerns. So as a result of these incidents of Nestlé continued, and the most recent one is the one which has happened in France, and some 56 children have gotten ill with a very dangerous killing bacteria called Escherichia coli enterohemorrhagic, E. coli in short, and two children have died. This incident is just a repeat of another incident which I witnessed when I was in Nestlé and whistleblowing. Exactly the same type of errors and the same bacteria. I also filed a lawsuit against the company, and in 2020, after 10 years legal battle, I won against Nestlé. The court recognized that the top management of Nestlé had violated the law, had destroyed my career, had subjected me to very long, intensive suffering, and had made a fake investigation into my harassment and had not followed up on my whistleblowing. Despite all these recognitions, there is no sanction for the company management, nothing. And I'm still fighting to be heard by authorities. And I'm still fighting to get some compensation for my huge, colossal losses. Because in this process, you can imagine that I had other lawsuits, strategic lawsuits, and Nestle also filed a lawsuit against me for talking to the media.
Thank you very much, Dr. Motoriemi. I mean, this is just an unbelievable fight, you know, this for so many years and against this huge corporate company. And we have a clear intention, you know, I mean, there's a criminal intention. They don't care for the human lives, for the pet's life, or nobody's life. It's all then about the profits, you know. And to be fighting so long, and you here, you know, I mean, just thank you very much, because this is a massive fight. I will say a few words about me. So first, we are here three panelists, and my name is Johannes Stefansson. I'm the whistleblower in the fish roll scandal case, which involves Namibia and Iceland. It's about the misuse of resources in Namibia, the fishing quotas. Icelandic fishing company, which I worked for in Namibia from arrived in 2011 and left in July 2016. Went in with intention that they would get access to the fishing, very lucrative fishing quotas by any means, and leave as little as possible in the country on the cost of the Namibian people. They were in partnership with two former ministers and officials and other business people, and the corrupt quotas start to come in, and everybody start to make business, and this was quite a rather big corruption scheme. And this is just to explain maybe a little bit the size. There is the Financial Intelligence Center in Namibia has flagged around $700 million as suspicious transactions related to the fish roll case. With at least confirmed $15 million which are paid in bribes from the Icelandic fishing company to those fish roll accused in Namibia. And there's estimated several hundreds of millions of US dollars which have been pocketed by the fish roll accused in Namibia and Iceland from the corruption scheme. I was the managing director of the operation there for the Icelandic company, and I left in July 2016, but there was a growing conflict between me and the headquarters of the company in Iceland and the management there. And many things start to happen that my life became at risk, and I was followed, spied on, propaganda, and it increased with the coming months. I was located in South Africa, in Cape Town, and it was quite unreal, but thankfully I had come to know a person named Christian Yema, who is from Congo, lives in South Africa. We had become friends, and he is a trained bodyguard and with the military background. So he stepped into my life on the right moments, because things were increasing a lot against me. And then the attempts start to come, you know, people sent to shoot me, but they were received by my armed bodyguards, and people tried to abduct me from my place I lived, but my bodyguard was armed, and among other things. And I think have to run for hiding in 4 different countries. This in late 2016, I'm strongly suspect I've been poisoned. I was poisoned several times until early 2017. I had moved to another country, Morocco. And there I was actually put in a safe house. The poisoning has had a huge impact on my life. I'm still dealing with delayed poisoning effects. But you know, it's at least there is some progress. I left in July 2016, and around 2 years later, I reported the cases to authorities in Namibia. I went there with a strong security, because it was very important that, you know, the government and the Secret Service in Namibia would not know about my trip to Namibia. We successfully reported the cases, and the work started. And over 1 year later, I reported the case in Iceland. Then late 2019, or 15 months after I reported the cases first to Namibia, there was a media exposure with a quite good documentary from Al Jazeera, which went undercover to prove what I have said. There have been many good things happening in the cases. The investigation and the investigators and prosecutors are working well on it. And I hold the status of suspect in Iceland, but I'm set to be a state witness in Namibia, and I will go to Namibia to testify when the main trial will start. Some of the suspects or official suspects have been almost over 2.5 years in jail, including 2 ministers in Namibia, which former Minister of Fishery and former Minister of Justice. And just to say, because we are talking here on the US conference, that the US made travel sanctions against them and their families over 1 year ago. Yeah, and the fight continues. There is more and more coming up, and I think we are moving in the right direction, but it involves many other countries. I will let this do for me, and maybe we move to some of the topics we were going to discuss here. And one of the topics is, what is whistleblowing, and what is understanding from our side of the whistleblowing. And Mr. Danikas, maybe we start with you.
Thank you, Johannes. Well, to be more specific, what is a whistleblower? There are 2 different categories: a textbook, judiciary reply, and a social reply. And that is a huge problem for us, because when in 2019, I was working with Transparency International Greece, and we have this dilemma. How do we explain people, as well as judges and bureaucrats, what is a whistleblower, and especially on countries where they're not native English speakers, So you cannot translate the word whistleblower. What you have to do is you have to interpret and give a definition to what is a whistleblower. There is no translation. There's no direct translation. So when it comes to judiciary, we adopted a textbook translation, which was a witness of public interest. I wasn't happy with the translation, because the wording witness, the whistleblower, it's a recipe for disaster. We have slap suits. We have, if a whistleblower hears that, but you're a witness, we want you in court, they might run the other way. So there was a huge issue with that, but I'm not a legal expert. But when it comes to a social translation of what is a whistleblower, that's where my 15+ years of experience comes in. It is very important to understand what is the whistleblower concept, what it stands for. And in my own interpretation, that a whistleblower is an activist of information against corruption. He's an activist, and he's a volunteer, because he volunteers information. He volunteers the exposure. We're not forced to come out and blow the whistle on my right. We're not informers. Okay, we come out because we are conscious. We are citizens of consciousness. We follow our conscience. We identify wrongdoing. We identify corruption at the place of work, and a little bell tells us this is wrong, and we need to do something about it. That makes us activists, and that makes us volunteers of information. But I go a further step and say it is not, we don't give information, we expose, wrongdoing, because we collect evidence. We don't just open our mouth and say a rumor. We might risk our lives, we collect evidence, and then we expose wrongdoing. So in my mind, a whistleblower is a volunteer and a activist against wrongdoing and corruption at the place of work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very, very good answer, Mr. Danikas. What is your opinion, Dr. Botoriami?
Well, I fully support what Ari said, and I appreciate what he said. I would like to say that we just made a review of legislation in different countries, and we see that the definition, the legal definition of whistleblowing changes depending on the country. And that's already a pity that we cannot harmonize the definition. One thing which we also noticed that in some countries, they have given a definition which is only relating to employees, and they omit civilians, like Trevor Kitchen, that you may actually can read his story in the Whistleblowing Network news. There are civilians which also come forward with data and the blow whistle on dysfunctions. Sometimes, for instance, dysfunction about judicial corruption. But I would like also to say that whistleblowing, as Ari said, is not just disclosing information, which then we can perhaps call it a leak. But whistleblowers, they are actually those who are conducting a battle to correct a wrongdoing, and or as Ari says, an activist. And some, they also come with their own expertise and analysis of the information. They just don't give data. Some others, like myself, we are not only coming with some data, but we are coming with a whole story which, if you look at the whole pattern, then you see a corruption. And this corruption is not only, in my case, in Nestle or in a government, but it shows that the whole system is not functioning. If you examine my story, you can see that media did not function, judicial system did not function, NGOs did not function, nothing functioned. Even academia, as I will discuss it later, did not function. So what perhaps we should rephrase the question and ask ourselves, what is the purpose of whistleblowing? And if the purpose of the whistleblowing is to correct a wrongful situation, perhaps we should be talking as much about the following up of the message, how we are actually following up the information and correcting the situation, than just talking about laws for protection of whistleblowers, which is important. To protect whistleblowers is important, but finally, the whole purpose of whistleblowers is to protect the public. And this is for which they have given up their life. And for a person like me, who have given up my life and the well-being of my family for the good of the general public, and then I see that my information, with all my expertise, 40 years of expertise, is not followed up, and people continue to get sick, this is very much hurting.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a very, very good point there. And also, I mean, it's different between countries. And, you know, and also, I mean, how whistleblowers are seen, you know, I mean, whistleblowers are one of the greatest or not the best tool to expose wrongdoings and corruption. I mean, this is well recognized in US, but, you know, so many countries, they don't recognize it. And, you know, there is whistleblowers are individuals who, you know, have a very strong conscience, and they're willing to sacrifice everything else just for the conscience, because it's the right thing to do. And as also you point out, you know, to protect the public. It's about, you know, human rights violations, as your case is also about. So, I mean, I think you raise a very good point. And also, I mean, the whistleblowers between countries, I mean, there's a different culture, there's a different background in the country, so it's different how they are seen, you know. As if it's a whistleblower, so, you know, as we understand it, or it's someone who is just like considered as a rat, you know. Maybe you continue, Aris. Yeah.
When you say they consider us like a rat, I would like to say that when I was blowing the whistle with the top management, do you know what they told me? With a metaphor, they compared me to cockroaches. And they said, oh, do you know we have killed cockroaches? Yeah,
exactly. Just think about it, you know. This is a management. This is a huge corporate company. You're doing them a favor. You are preventing them to make a human rights violations. And this is how they act on it, you know. Mr. Danikas, you have raised hand. Or?
Yes. Yasmin, it was a very nice approach and I loved it. And let me add that corruption is a global virus. If it's left unattended, it further corrupts and multiplies, just as a virus does. Think about it that way. Now, up until now, what was the vaccination against corruption? Okay, we had the authority, we had the government, the system, as we call it, just like you mentioned earlier on, the judiciary, the authorities, but they have failed. Let's not kid each other. All those decades or hundreds of years, our own politicians, where are the taxpayers' money going to? So we came to a dead end. And because of that dead end, and because of that virus, which is corruption, the whistleblower concept is born. So in essence, we bring in among the citizens, the private citizens, okay, to do something about it. We try to be independent. We try to say, okay, the system has failed. There's a dead end. It affects the public. Who will benefit if we, the whistleblowers, fight corruption and expose, I won't say report, I'll say expose corruption, okay? Who benefits? The public. So what do? We get together and we take matters into our own hands. That's how I see it. It's as simple as this. So this is why it is important, and that is my next line to this subject. How do we incorporate the whistleblower concept to our society? We need to now move out of the branding of whistleblowers. When we all talk about branding whistleblowers, it's like the fashion of the day, but eventually, that fashion will get extinct, it'll go away. So what do we need to do? I believe that we need to incorporate the whistleblower concept into our ethics of our society. How do we do that? By having public awareness, by start teaching in our families, our kids, the future generation of whistleblowers, okay, not to be afraid to raise the voice and report wrongdoing. And most importantly, I think we need to introduce courses in our education system of the whistleblower concept, so we can prepare the future generations in order to have the whistleblower concept within them. So everybody can expose their wrongdoing without pinpointing the word, hey, you're a whistleblower, you are a rat, you are a cockroach. It will go without saying. How do we do that? It's another chapter altogether. Thank you.
I mean, you're right. The corruption is the root of all evil, and it's exactly with panel discussion like this and the conference which is now taking place for now, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We build more and more awareness. We connect to more and more people because we need to change the culture, the mentality.
Public awareness.
We need to get the will from the politics, and etc. What is your take on that, Dr. Motoriemi?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So regarding, what can be changed to improve, to see whistleblowers better recognized and protected? What is your take on that?
Okay. Well, we have to, in order to change the situation, we have to first of all examine the stories of whistleblowers in its details, because the devil is in details. And when we go through the stories of the whistleblowers, we discover issues, sometimes side issues, which makes that whistleblowing does not function. And we have to also recognize that those who violate the law, they also will violate the whistleblowing laws. So what happens, what is in common among whistleblowers is that they all face the judicial system. But the big problem is actually the judicial system. Because presently the judicial system in many countries is not able to deliver justice to whistleblowers. And in many countries is actually corrupt. And whistleblowers suffer even more during the judicial process than what they have gone through within their organization. What whistleblowers need in order is to get back their credibility. If we want to change the image of whistleblowers, what we need is to give back to them their credibility. And their credibility can be given back only when the justice system functions, when the issue is followed up, and the wrongdoers are sanctioned. Today, it is whistleblowers who are sanctioned and the wrongdoers who are promoted. Do you know that the director who harassed me, he has been promoted in his job, and then later on he has become the mayor of his town, and I have been excluded from society. So where is the justice?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point. You know, the criminals are encouraged to continue, and those who want to do the right thing, they suffer. And I mean, I know here in Iceland, you know, I'm under investigation as well, even though I came forward because there is no law to protect me. And in Namibia, but at least they have a state witness protection law. So Namibia is more advanced than Iceland. And you know, this is a quite big problem. I mean, we know about so many whistleblowers who end up in jail for speaking up, and when those who conducted the corruption, you know, they walk free. And this is also one thing we see here in my case in Iceland. We don't see any actions as freezing assets or anything like that. So they do whatever they want to do. But they in Namibia, Fisherot accused 9 of 10 are in jail waiting trial. So they cannot be continuing doing business or very limited. And unfortunately, Iceland is very weak on that. And it basically promotes them just to continue whatever they want to do, because they know they will just get a slap on the wrist, most likely. Mr. Danegas, what is your input on this?
When it comes to whistleblowers and their credibility, the catalyst is not only the judiciary process, it's also the media role on whistleblowers. Now then, I came from my own terrible experience with the media in South Africa. The media is supposed to be a safe harbor of whistleblowers. So it can be a safe harbor of whistleblowers, or it can be a hostile submarine, which it will sink whistleblowers to the abyss and silence them forever. It's called character assassination by fake news. We all seen it, we all experience it, one way or the other. I've experienced it a lot, and it took me many years to recover from it. Recently, I follow the advice of my mentor and a social worker in South Africa by the name of John Clark, who helped me a lot emotionally to own my story. Whistleblowers need to own their own story. They need to choose carefully who will represent them, who will tell their story, and how it will be told. Okay, so in about a year or a year and a half ago, I eventually had the courage to take up a media outlet of South Africa to the press ombudsman for a complaint. And it was a traumatic experience. I mean, it was like a witch hunt and a trial, but I won. And I won the right of an apology. I had an apology and I had the right of reply, because what happened in South Africa, in my case, I call it the power of the pen. And the power of the pen is a very powerful weapon. So in my case, I was afraid, so were my kids, my family, to sit on, the computers and the media and read the news, because everybody was talking about Aridonikus. Everybody was talking about who Aridonikus is and what he did and what he not do. But nobody was talking to me. Nobody ever came and told me, hey, can we hear your story? So it is very important to have the journalists that they are handling whistleblowers as the sources. They need to be trained. They need to be able to have a sort of a qualification process as to know how to handle whistleblowers and the sources for their own benefit also, because we've seen what happened to many journalists. They got killed. Okay, they can become the whistleblowers themselves. Have you ever wondered when a journalist stops becoming a journalist and start becoming a whistleblower? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that it was brutal what you went through for many years, and the role of the media, can be quite can be good and can be bad. And it's also, as you point out, the journalists need to know and learn how to work with whistleblowers and make sure their trust and protection is in order. And then, of course, we always have media, which are, in distance and are used by the corrupt parties to attack us, And Dr. Motoyemi, what is your take on that, on the media role with the whistleblowers?
Yeah, I agree with Ari that the media plays a great role in giving back or on the credibility of whistleblowers. However, media also play a bad role sometimes with the credibility of whistleblowers. And then again, we come back to the whole issue of the justice system, because when the media is defaming you, then you have to go to the court and to complain. And that's, again, it costs a lot of money, at least in Switzerland. And the fact is that when you are dealing with powerful employers, powerful people, then they are both the media. And personally, I believe that I have been censored by English-speaking media. I know this for sure with BBC, which made an interview with me, and then they refused to broadcast this because their lawyers did not allow them. So now what's going on behind the curtain? And as a matter of fact, you will find almost no good article in English on my case, except for the one which has been published by the Whistleblower News Network. So you can see that we cannot count on the media to help us with our credibility. What helped me, it would have helped me with my credibility if public health authorities, regulatory authorities would have examined my concerns, my issue, and they have made an opinion whether Nestlé did wrong or not. I'm still waiting for this ruling. And if there was one single report from public health authorities to say, yes, Nestlé did wrong on food safety, then I would have gained my credibility back.
Yeah, and also like in your case, you are dealing with super big company and they have superpowers. And unfortunately, the media, even though BBC, they cave in. They cave in with all these letters from the lawyers and so on. I think you also come to a good point, the Whistleblowers Network News, Jane Turner and Anna Popovich and the others, they're doing amazing work for so many whistleblowers around this world. They keep bringing our stories to the light. And as we have seen now with this conference, they keep pushing our word, our story, our saying, and it's quite comfortable to have them in your corner. Mr. Danigas, I see you raised your hand. You have some comments on it?
Yes. Interestingly, in my case, the media played a crucial role into bullying and interfering with the judiciary process. Think about this. We had a lobby of journalists that were following a certain narrative, and they actually launched a fake news, media campaign against me in order to, intimidate me and attack my credibility as a witness for the prosecution. It makes sense. And because I was away in exile and I was hiding, I could not speak. So there's a fine balance between media, whistleblowers, and judiciary, and the judicial process. And although I've been through that ordeal, and I heard you saying about, what happens when the media reports wrongdoing and what is the judiciary doing about this, I have to say that even although I have been punished a lot by the South African media, I am with a NGO, Blueprint for Free Speech, where we passionately believe on freedom of expression of the media. I believe that if you as a whistleblower have the truth in your side, no matter how many lies they will publish, eventually the truth comes out. And my favorite say is you must never attack a whistleblower's integrity with a lie when your own integrity can be attacked with his truth. Think about this. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a constant fight, and also, look, it's a little bit different, like, for example, with me and both of you. Your story starts a long time ago, and, you a little bit paved the way for people like me because you have, and so many others, because you have been fighting. It has, when I took a decision to blow the whistle, I go internet and I learn from stories, I learn from how NGOs and lawyers are working and what they recommend and advise. This was maybe not so, 20, 22 years ago. So, this is, I have got both, both good and bad, and it will always be part of it. And thankfully, it has been going fairly well. And as you say, the truth always comes out. And I think you both are living proof of that, because you are constantly fighting for what is right. It's a huge sacrifices you have made. I want to see if you, from the audience, if we can have some questions. If Siri can tell us if you have some questions from the audience. If there is no, yeah, I got one question here to me. If my, if it's to all, if our lives are still in danger. I live my life as I'm on the hit list. They were going to silence me before I came forward, but after all the experience we had to go through, and I have a good team of protectors and people who are just with me in the journey, that we have learned a lot. Who is the enemy, how they operate, how they work, and who are their connections, and so on. And so we got more a little bit on top of things, but I live in a rather peaceful country, but the police knows about my situation here in Iceland, and when I travel, for example, in one or two occasions, in a couple of occasions, a couple of occasions now this year, we just informed the police that I'm in the area, so they know about it. And it has also been done when I traveled last year. I have also traveled with protectors, and we constantly value the situation. So I'm basically on the guard 24/7, 365 days, because also there is the official accused do not want me to go and testify in Namibia, and the official accused and their associates. Dr. Motiviemi, how is your status? Are you live in danger?
I don't know. I have been warned that I have to check my car. But the issue is that one is living all the time in anxiety and and what doesn't know what tomorrow is going to be. One is living day by day, hour by hour. So, but if you allow me, I like to come back to a point that Ari made. and I think is very important, and is something which is on my heart. And I think it's even more important than my main story. In some countries, there are issues with ethics of lawyers. And this is a huge problem for whistleblowers, because they, other than the media, they need lawyers in order to defend themselves. Now, the issue that I want to bring is that what do you think when a professor of law, labor law, who is expert judge, that means judges and lawyers refer to him in the rulings, where society is considering him as a referee. He is on the payroll of multinational companies. What do you think when this lawyer, who is a professor, he's the Pope of law, labor law in Switzerland, comes to court and deny any wrongdoing because he's the lawyer of Nestle? And he denies any wrongdoing, while later on the court admitted that there was harassment, moral harassment and bullying and persecution. And yet he denies all wrongdoing, and he presents a fake investigation to the court as a valid investigation. And more than that, he comes to court and says, well, when there is the harassment, the employee has to be removed from his position. And the abuser, he can remain in his place. And he is a professor of labor law at one of the biggest universities in Switzerland. I have a major fundamental issue with such a situation, because we are sending our kids to university, and they are going to learn about to do the wrong thing and to defend injustice and criminality. I cannot accept such a situation. Whenever you mention introducing ethics in society, that's where ethics should start. Our professor should be the model of ethics. That professor is putting the foundation of justice system in Switzerland. How can we rely on the justice when you have a lawyer who is defending injustice and he's a professor of law at university? So for me, this is so unacceptable. It's just unbearable.
It is a crazy situation, and these corrupt companies, and they have so many people in their pockets in this system that the system is broken in so many ways, and so many bad apples which follow the corrupt parties, the companies, or even is it public or private sectors. And but I'm sure you, like all of us, we always have to be careful about the life, the danger, and we take all the steps carefully. Mr. Danigas, you have gone through a lot. I mean, your life has been quite a lot in danger, and these are not ordinary people. These are the death squad. This is very dangerous people. How is your situation today?
Today it's better than it was when I was forced to exile from a country of residence, and suddenly, it's terrible to just press a button and put everything behind you. I mean, South Africa was my country. I wanted to live there for the rest of my life. I'm as much Greek as I'm South African. So I had to leave because I knew those people, how they operated. I knew the modus operandi. I knew they were going to kill me or my wife. But when we came to Greece, I didn't put everything behind me. Within 3 months, I've loaded my evidence to YouTube, because when I send emails from Europe to government officials in South Africa, to international networks. Just like Jasmine told me that to try and see, contact authorities in France and other countries. We don't give up because we want accountability and we want to fight impunity. So I put everything up there, and then the ordeal came back, because then the authorities of South Africa contacted me and said, hey, guess what? We're investigating those people and we want your help. And then I had break loose, because every 2 years by protocol, I had Amnesty International helping us, and we were changing home every 2 years. Now, I was a young parent. I had a 3-month-old baby, and we had to move house every 2 years. And, I had the authorities of South Africa coming to Greece, and they came to see me 3 times. And they were telling me how they tried to get those, racist elements of the forces, but they cannot make it. They cannot do it. It's so difficult. For the past 8 years, up until the case was dropped in 2019, where I find out from the media, although I was a witness for the prosecution, I find out from the media that the case was dropped. I was in constant fear of my life and family's life. Now, I feel safer because from 2019, I was able to speak, to go public, to present my evidence directly to the people. And I feel safer. Again, we look behind our back, always. It comes to territory. We all suffer PTSD. We always have nightmares. I have the experience now because I consult other whistleblowers. I can see Yasmin is still suffering from the way she talks, the tone of her voice. She still suffers. She still hasn't dealt with her pain. And that is an advice I give to whistleblowers. Deal with your pain first. Get some help, get some therapy in order to fight your justice and your cause.
Yeah, that's true. We always have to watch our back. Dr. Motaryami, you.
And Ari says you should get some therapy. The fact is that for the last 12, 14 years, I've been going to the physician, the doctor, psychiatrist, just to check if I am insane or I am healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know who is sick in this world.
Yeah, I got to psychologist just to check are my heads fine? Are my rational thinking in order, and just to have a good supporting network, because, it's a challenge story. Here, we only have 2 minutes left. There is one quick question here, and I don't think there is a long answer, but, someone from the audience asked, did you get or try to get some support from the co-workers to, support your story? Dr. Motaryami?
No, I didn't get any support from my co-workers except for one person who came to court and confirmed that I was subject to a very severe, intense harassment, that it would be unbearable for her. But interesting thing is that she's my hero, because she said, I am ashamed to say that even I participated in that harassment. And from then on, she's really the hero of my life. But on the other hand, I had some friends in the company who came to court and lied.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Danikas, did you get some support, or did you try to get some other of your colleagues to support your story?
When it comes to the police force, it's different. I think the same issues we see in America lately with the police force. And if you turn against your own people, you're a rat. That's it. You're a cockroach. So, and also, I was forced to exile. I had a dual citizenship, so I was fortunate. I had a way out in order to survive. Those guys stay behind and they're part of the community. So I don't think they'll speak and support me. People who left South Africa, they support me and they speak now about my story.
Okay, that's very good. I mean, I know in my case, I didn't try to get any support, or because, I said, this is just my battle, my fight. I'm not going to get anybody involved in this. Here, thank you very much. It was really a great honor and pleasure to share the panel with you. I really much appreciate it, and big applaud and kudos to Siri and the team for organizing this. And thank you very much. All the best.
Hi. Well,
Hello.
wait. So I got so inspired by your conversation, and I'm going to put you all on the spot. I want to keep you on for a few more minutes. Is that all right with you?
No problem.
Oh my, don't run away. The audience is loving your story so much. They have so many questions for you, and I just want to ask a few of them. And we had such a fantastic prep call. Johannes, you did such a good job moderating, like you kept everybody on time. Now I'm totally breaking the rules, throwing everything out the window. So I appreciate your flexibility, but you all spoke so passionately about the changes that we need to see happen. So I was originally planning to talk during this time about laws that needed to be changed around the world and things that needed to happen. But let me hear from you all about it. Like, based on your experiences, and you talked about some of the stuff, but what is it that you think needs to happen to support whistleblowers? What do you think? Like, let's start there.
Mr. Danikas, maybe you start.
Well, look, we need to have a common line on the judiciary process. So, and I speak now for South Africa and Europe. I mean, you can have a bunch of countries have different interpretation of the law, different interpretation of the directive, and using their own language, which very conveniently for certain corrupted judicial procedure. I'm dealing with this now. Greece at the time they passed their deadline. They haven't implemented the directive, so we're going after them, and that's one issue. The other thing that needs to be changed is we need to see, and it is very crucial, we need to have protection mechanisms that actually work for whistleblowers. Not in theory, but they actually work, they implement it, and they're easy to reach. So a whistleblower can reach out and know that he's secured. Finally, it's the issue of reward versus, what you call it? My mind stopped in English. Reward versus
Anti-retaliation protections?
Retaliation protection, yes. And also, I mean, not entirely with the whole bounty hunting you guys love in America. I can understand it in some big corporate, situations, but I'm all about restore the living standards of the whistleblower. Pay his bond, relocate him if he needs to, get him a job, and have the same standard of living that he had before he blew the whistle and all hell broke loose. That's what makes sense to me.
Here, I find the whistleblowers protection law in many European countries rather weak, and I think it should be much stronger, without going much in detail, because we don't see this really in the practice, Would we see like us three be really protected? And as there was a whistleblowers law implemented in Iceland, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, or 2 years ago, and it's weak. There's a lot of if the corporate company does this, then there's a lot of if. So let's say if this law would have been implemented when I came forward, it would already been implemented. They've done nothing for me. And it's just a minor things, and there is no seriousness. There needs to be a strong will from the government, and why from the authorities. Why is it so weak? Why do we see mostly just US and some other countries taking this very strongly? And maybe what we need from US is that they make pressure on our countries, because and also when you come to the compensation for whistleblowers. I remember I had a conversation with the one person here a couple of years ago, and he said, why don't you buy this? It costs only 10 euro per month. I said, listen, 10 euros is a lot for me when you have a zero income. So that my point here is that, should be some security funds. What is the issue to put, when the whistleblowers have been established and so on, just to put them at least on unemployment income, you know, because trust me, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 or 2,000 euros, you know, it's a lot of money when you have nothing and for many years. And, you know, and one of the things maybe the whistleblowers have is surviving skills, but, you know, it needs much stronger law, protection law, and to protect the well-being of the whistleblowers, the family, and the income. And this shouldn't be much a problem, but there is no more very limited will. Thank you.
Yes, Yasmin, please.
Yes, I would like to echo what Johannes just said. I mean, we need really pressure on our government to have a protection law which is efficient. But I want to also say something else. When 12 years ago, I started a legal procedure against Nestlé, one of the key reasons was that I needed to understand why they behave like this. This question of why and having the answer. And this was one of the reasons I started the lawsuit, which was huge, very costly, and has ruined me and my life. And after 12 years, I'm still with this question, why? And what I need is that we organize such a panel discussions between the whistleblowers and the wrongdoers. And here the wrongdoers in my story is not only the management of Nestlé, but is also the authorities who did not follow up on my whistleblowing. I want to hear from the French authorities why, when I provided them 30 pages report, they did nothing with that. I want to hear from NGOs why no NGO supported me. I want to hear from the media, from BBC, why they have censored me. I want to hear from New York Times why they got my file. And we are talking about food safety, biggest company in the world, the top management of the company with data showing incidents, and yet they do not write one single word. I want to know why. And I am craving for such a discussion with my opponents, with my adversaries. And I'm prepared to face them so that they tell me what I have done wrong and how I should have done things differently so that I could be heard.
Yeah, great point. Great point. I'm so happy you said that during this discussion, Yasmin. Yes.
Thank you.
Ari, is there something on the tip of your tongue?
Yes, Yasmin, you've done nothing wrong. When you think like this, you lose a game. That's exactly what they want you to feel like, that you've done something wrong. You sit and you break your head, you bust in your head. What have I done wrong? Where did I go wrong? You're just a decent human being. You're a citizen of conscience. Follow your heart. The system is corrupted. They're on the wrong and they're hiding. They're not going to come and face you. Because again, you have the truth in your side. In my case, the authorities took my draft. They came to the South African embassy in Greece and took my notes. They went back to the court. And the National Prosecution Authority lied and said, this is a statement of Ari Danikas. They forged my signature without me knowing about it. And they lost the case. And the sabotaged the case. And those people now are out and about. And that's why I don't give up. That's why they haven't silenced me yet. Because the truth is on my side. So you've done nothing wrong. They're hiding and they are afraid of you, your dynamics, and your truth. The truth of the whistleblower.
So well said. Oh, go ahead, John.
Here, you know, after I left the company in 2016, and I'd gone through a lot of this danger, life threats, and so on, you know, and the first thing I did, one of the first things I did, I bought me a book. It was an ex-FBI profiler. So I read this book, you know, it's about profiling of people, you know, because I wanted to know what kind of people I was dealing with. So, you know, I found very quickly there's a narcissist, sociopaths, and so on, you know, and these minds will never change because, you know, he went very detailed, for example, in the narcissist. And, you know, over 100 points, and I could see some of the people who are dealing with scored well over 100. And he in the profiling book says, these people never change, just stay away from this kind of people.
Oh my gosh, this is such a powerful, I mean, but talk about people who never change. Whistleblowers never change, right? You make one choice in your life that you're going to stand up and you do it and it changes your life and you become part of a community that is global. So all three of you are highlighted and featured at Whistleblower Network News. I think you've all been Whistleblower of the Week. If people want to hear more of your stories, they can all go to whistleblowersblog.org and find your podcasts. It's incredible. We got to make sure you all have pages at whistleblowers.org at NWC's website. I so appreciate your participation here. And I just have one last wrap-up question. I know I've dragged you guys out for longer than you planned. If you had one message to send to a whistleblower who's watching this right now, who either blew the whistle and is now facing retaliation, or is thinking about blowing the whistle and are afraid, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, just to know that, if he's going to blow the whistle, it's going to be a rough seas, but you adjust to it. You adjust to the rough seas and everything you go through, and to survive. And that to blow the whistle is the best thing, it gives the life such a big purpose and meaning, and you're trying to change things to better for the people. So definitely, just get the good advices from the NGOs as yourself and the lawyers and so on, and, or contact other whistleblowers and take the steps well and carefully. But whatever you go through, you will stand through it.
I will say, if you're going to blow the whistle, do your homework. Speak to your family. Make sure you have the stomach for what comes, and consider also your family. Be prepared for the financial blow you're going to get. Be prepared for the social slap you're going to get. You're going to be the isolated person. You're going to be pointed by finger. Be prepared for those kind of retaliations. Know your legislation system in your country. Okay? Be prepared. When it comes to whistleblowers that already blow the whistle and the suffer retaliation, we live in 2022. We don't live in 2004, where I came from and had nothing to protect me. We're working for you, for future whistleblowers. We try through NGOs, through judicial process, to get a solid legislation in place to support you and protect you. So the truth is your biggest companion. The truth in your side, and the truth will set you free. Don't give up. Keep owning your story. Keep telling your story over and over again.
Well, I would say three things. Understand your values, know your values, trust yourself, and listen to your heart.
Yeah, very well said.
Wonderful final words. Thank you so much, you all. I will let you go now. I hate to do it, but I really appreciate your time and your great comments today. I know it meant a lot to the audience, who are full of comments in the chat, thanking you, calling you heroes, and calling out your bravery. So thank you for joining us today to celebrate National Whistleblower Day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All righty. So now we turn to some other topics that have to do with international whistleblower protections. I'm really, really grateful to our panelists who were able to talk about the independent whistleblower experience that they had and all of the similarities that they share. So you can see they were on different continents, different countries, yet some of the mechanisms were still the same. I love that Ari highlights the reality that when you're suffering retaliation, it's because you have something important to say. So if you're targeted right now, if you're living in fear, if you're struggling with your coworkers turning their backs on you, and you're not sure where to go, please follow the advice of the panelists and find help, find therapy, find family support, find an attorney, do everything you can, because you deserve to be protected and you are doing the right thing by speaking up about something when you see a concerning type of conduct going on, whether it be a violation of a climate regulation, whether it be a health and human services issue, something about your workplace not being safe. Whistleblowers are protecting us all over. They are protecting babies from dying. They're protecting people from being tortured by the government. They are protecting our environment from being destroyed. And these are global norms everywhere around the world. We want to be able to experience a very thriving democracy, and it doesn't matter what country we live in. We all want the same thing.